up, and welcome to the Manifest That Shit podcast. This is your girl, Latoya Beverly, aka your spiritual guide and business coach. This is a place where we're going to be talking about money, sex, and love, unapologetic, real, raw, uncut, and no strings attached. I'm going to be talking about how to slay, hustle, inspire, and thrive always, because that's what we do here at the Manifest That Shit podcast. So I look forward to seeing you in this upcoming episode. Hey, what's up? It's your girl Latoya for another episode of season 3, episode 2 of the Manifest That Shit podcast. So we're going to talk about kind of ending where we last left off, talking about twin flames. And I want to specifically talk about the level of narcissism that can occur with meeting your twin flame or your soulmate. And this could be in your friendships, your relationships, your family, coworkers. This is a really important topic. So really tune in, get your tea, get your coffee, and snuggle up and really be prepared to dive deep. So let's jump into it. So I have had I'm just going to be frank, codependent relationship. I am a natural born nurturer. I am compassionate. I am kind. I'm loving. I am all these beautiful things, but I have had a tendency to be highly sensitive, a HSP, or better yet, known as a empathic person. This is what my psychic and intuitive spiritual gifts have come with. And so in my being grown up and coming across all kinds of different people, I have found that I have been more so people's knights in shining armor when it comes to being that best friend, being dependable, being committed, being loyal. These are all beautiful things that we look forward to in having a relationship or a friendship with someone, right? Yes, absolutely. But unfortunately, there are people in the world that are really screwed up. And I'm not saying that I have not experienced opportunities and in my life that have allowed me to really dig deep in, like if you've been following this podcast for, the last year and a half, you know that I suffered from child sexual abuse. I was a victim and I was preyed on. And if you can relate, whether it's emotional abuse, sexual abuse, or physical abuse, there are things that come out of being a victim, being abused by an abuser, whether it is physical, like I said, emotional, spiritual, mental. These are all forms of abuse. But really what comes out of it is running into the arms of those who are narcissists. And so, as I mentioned, I was in a very unhealthy relationship, and for almost 2 years. It got to the 2-year mark and I started to not be appreciated. It was probably the most disrespectful relationship that I had been in. But the difference between this relationship and the men that I had dated previously, was that I was able to, somewhat save myself from, as much of the trauma as possible. But there was obviously still a lot of emotional healing that is and has occurred. And so when you are meeting your twin flame, it's really important, ladies and gents, to recognize that these people put on a front for you flat up, straight up in the very beginning. People always say to me, "Oh, Latoya, you have your career together, you have businesses, you have all these things going, you're an amazing woman, but your love life sucks, really." And then, they're like, "Oh, these guys seem really great. What happened?" And then you get rid of them. Well, at the end of the day, we all need to be healed, and we've all gone through something, right? Like I was mentioning before. But when it comes to being with your narcissist, you can be very much kind of brainwashed, essentially, or get into the okie doke or the mediocre mode of just going through the motions and not really realizing how caught up in their game you are. Everything is a head game. And it was funny because I was watching this dating show on Netflix, and me and my sister were watching it, and we came across the lesbian, dating scene, and, the word fuckboy came across, and I was like, okay, well, what is that in the lesbian community, She kind of described it to me, and just constantly somebody who just has this look down, and they have a look down, whether they're straight or gay. And then who's always like, who will just reel you in, which they do. And then they basically, everything's a head game. And that's probably one of the most like fucked up, painful things that I could possibly go through, or anybody could go through and experience, is the head games, because you believe everything they have to say. You're basically believing in empty promises. And so you don't know reality from fantasy, because a lot of women are living in that fantasy world. They want to believe it so badly. They want to believe that they are loved, that they deserve it, that they are living on cloud 9. But really, it's this purgatory world. It's this gray area. And you don't know where you're truly standing, and it's not on solid ground. And so then all of a sudden, one day you get to the place and the point of your relationship in your life where things are sinking very quickly. And so before things could sink too far, and obviously I was pregnant and thinking about how I did not want my child to experience what I had been going through as a male. This level of narcissism, and how I needed to protect him from this. And I wish that, to be honest with you guys, I wish that there was a law against keeping children away from narcissistic moms or dads. I feel that if a psychiatrist can easily diagnose or, come into the picture to medically, as a mental illness, properly diagnose someone, just as if they were able to diagnose someone with being bipolar, I believe that there would be a lot of children who wouldn't be so fucked up in this world. And so we just have to really, honor that and say like, hey, like, this is a real issue and problem. This is the reason why there's so many people loveless walking around. So what I did was, I had my level of spirituality. And I knew what was real for me. And I knew what I needed to do was to separate myself. And thank goodness, during my pregnancy, 7 months out of my pregnancy, I was sleeping in a totally different area. So energetically, I had already been cut off. Another thing that I did was making sure that I still kept in contact as much as possible with my friends, because the behavior of a narcissist is, like I said, is of an abuser. An abuser will make you feel like you can't talk to your family, although they could talk to theirs. An abuser will make you feel like you can go out with your friends, but maybe you can't. There's always some drama. There's always an argument over the drama, whether you go to the store or whether you're doing self-love and taking care of yourself. If it's not about them 100%, then you're pretty damn sure they're going to end up getting into some stupid freaking argument over anything, excuse me. And so, it was exhausting, you guys. I didn't even get a chance to be pregnant or to feel my own hormones or to just really be concerned about me. And that's exactly how it is. I remember telling my girlfriend, who I ended up basically not being friends with, getting back together with my ex, which is really sad, because narcissists, again, they will make you feel like you need to break up certain friendships that you have with certain people that are basically on to their bullshit and their games. And including family members, they will do it. But I remember telling her I felt trapped. It was a hard thing to even try to explain. But I think that, let's be real, there's a level of addiction that comes with it because of the codependency, and because, you're sitting there not trying to give up on your relationship. You're thinking that it's normal. Maybe I could change this person, or maybe this person will want to change for me. And especially if I was pregnant with their baby, you think, oh, okay, well, maybe once the baby's here, they'll change. Well, let me tell you something. Within 24 hours or less, this person was still riding on their own coattails, cussing me out, and literally moved and went forward with what they felt was right, to the point where they forgot about their own child, to the point where they forgot that I got out of an emergency C-section and both me and the baby almost lost our lives. Like, I'm still fighting for it, which is the reason this is my 5th time being sick. I sound a little muzzly, so forgive me, guys. But you guys if you've never experienced a narcissist, and I'm sure you guys probably have, but you don't know the clear signs of a narcissist, then, it's really time to talk, right? So the signs of, and I've kind of already talked about it, in the beginning of this podcast, but we're going to talk about the signs of narcissistic abuse, right? We're going to get down to the nitty gritty and some basics, because as a spiritual counselor, this is what I work on with my clients in mind, body, and spirit. And it's interesting because most of my clients always have at least one narcissist who is the abuser and who has been, who has affected them in their life. And so, let's get into it, especially if you're dating. I'm back out here single again. And do I worry about meeting another narcissist? No, I am more concerned with healing deeply the areas that I have within myself that need to be filled by me with self-love and with consistency, and knowing that I can identify the level of codependency. I really worked hard. I think in this relationship, I had some codependency, but I didn't have a lot. But at the same time, which is the reason why I saved myself and got the heck out of the relationship while I could. Whereas other people are just stuck in their relationships for years and years and years and years. So, again, if you have been a victim and you're somebody who has been in an emotional, verbal, physical, sexual, abusive relationship, these are the things that we're going to start talking about. So first of all, it's toxic projection. Toxic projection is really like all of a sudden the person could be yelling at you or talking to you about their issues and making it seem like it's your issue. That is toxic projection. It's basically like, hey, I'm throwing up all over you. This is my throw up, but now I'm going to, basically wipe it all over you, and then I'm going to blame you for throwing up. Sounds gross, but that's just basically analysis. And then there's the sabotage. The person can be totally sabotaging themselves, but again, toxic projection. They will not only sabotage themselves, but they will start to sabotage you. I remember working on the phone with a client, and my ex was starting to cuss in the background while I was on the phone with this client. I mean, how unprofessional is that? Very unprofessional, very uncomfortable, and therefore trying to sabotage you and what you have going on that could be great. Also, when it comes to your business or any achievements or just seeing you shine, God forbid it's you shining and not them. The other one is that I like to talk about, obviously, is control. And then basically feeling entitled, and some of the things that come out of this, which is interesting, is of this abuse is I went to see a psychiatrist a couple years ago, and I had some issues with that I was healing between me and my mom, and I didn't have any daddy issues, that, I was seeing a lot in society, but I had mommy issues. There was something there that was just a gap, with me emotionally and the things that I had gone through. So sure enough, the psychiatrist said that I had been suffering from panic attacks, anxiety, not feeling, that I was worthy, overachieving, to get basically accolades, from my family members. And, but yet it wasn't, I felt that it wasn't enough, and always on the go, but never stopping. Always, again, wanting to control things for myself. So she basically diagnosed me as having childhood PTSD. And I was like, wow. I'm like, okay, And I will say this, you guys, we all have levels of narcissism within us, but there are true extremes of, somebody being self-absorbed or selfish, never thinking of others. These are, again, things that can happen. So when you have gone through the lack of empathy, with someone and somebody exploiting you by any means, because they are so insecure with themselves, there's a point where you may feel that, you may fight, like, again, you might be going through having PTSD symptoms or issues and not even realizing that because you have been in the world of narcissism with parents, with family, with coworkers, different relationships that you've attracted, you don't even realize that where the anxiety, the panic, the depression is really, where it's really coming from. And then having this horrible, thick, toxic shame and guilt. And feeling guilty, and these are all overwhelming feelings, and feelings of helplessness and feelings of worthlessness, like I mentioned before. And again, these are things that went back to childhood. So me as somebody who was preyed on, me as the victim, not knowing where to put my feelings and my emotions, and not being able to work out these things early on. It still leaked very much into my adulthood. And so, if you are somebody out there who does suffer from narcissism, there are people specifically who are therapists who work with, men or women who have been victims of narcissism. And then who also, if you do identify, sadly, with being a narcissist, there are people out there where you can actually get help. There are groups. And so, it's a process, and it's nobody's fault. It's not a blame system. It's just a simple fact that it could easily happen to anybody. But the best thing to work on, like I said, is loving yourself 100%, knowing your worth, knowing that there is help and not helplessness, knowing that you can get out of whatever you can get out of. I mean, I had to make a huge choice to take a significant person out of my life, out of my child's life, and to be a single mom and to raise my son on my own. And am I making up excuses? No, I'm not making up excuses. I'm out here hustling. I'm out here looking at, reviewing and revising my business and helping others so that way they too can break free from the level of codependency. So that way they too can break free and have financial success. And so I am being able to help others and from these situations. And that's exactly what you can do as well if you're not already doing it. So just be mindful that you're never in one place that long. But if you are standing still for too long and you are attracting and continuing to attract these types of people, it's time to really take a look at your own garden and your own backyard and really start pulling the weeds, identifying that the weed that looks like a flower, it's really a weed. And that's the thing with men or women. They may look pretty. They may sound intelligent. They may paint you the prettiest freaking picture in the world. But the thing is that, are they really painting it? Are they really giving it to you? And if they are painting it and giving it to you, what is the quality of it? Are they just throwing stuff at you? You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to really look at the level of what it is that a person is doing, how they're doing it. And don't worry about why they keep doing it, because you're not there to solve their issues and their problems. I always said in my relationship, you need to take accountability for you and your actions. And that's exactly it. And these people don't like to take accountability, and they never will, depending on their age and where they're at. But most of the time, it's something that it's been programmed, essentially. And we all have to reprogram ourselves. This is something that I teach my clients to do and to work with me, even if it's for 6 months, even if I have clients that have been with me for 2 years. But it's a simple fact of it takes time to reprogram what you have been taught, what has been learned behavior. Things take time. There is a system to things. And so this is why, as I mentioned in the last episode, I've teamed up with Marlene, and me and her have come together to help people in a different way to go through and look at your human capital. Because guess what? You are of value. And if you're not investing in you, even when it comes to this emotional standpoint and a spiritual standpoint, mentally, financially, let me tell you, if you've been a victim of any level of abuse, there are leaks somewhere going on around you. It could be financially, because narcissists, they like to go ahead and they feel like, hey, I got a golden person. I'm on the come up. So I'm going to use them financially. I'm going to ruin their credit. I'm going to take their money. There's all types of extremes. You could be married to a narcissist. I've seen people be married to a narcissist for 17 years, and God bless them, and they have a lot to come through. They have a lot of layers to peel back. And if that is you, and you've been in the relationship for way too long, and you realize that the same cycles are going to just continue to keep happening, because that's what narcissists do. They will say, oh, I'm sorry, then slap you. It could be physically or mentally or emotionally or financially. And then they say, oh, I'm sorry for doing that. And then they try to paint a pretty picture, and then they give you flowers, and they try to cover it up with something nice. And then they go back and they smack you again, And so I'm just saying that it's not going to change. Who they are is who they are, sadly. And there is still grace with you in your life, and you being able to take your accountability, being able to forgive yourself, own up to what you have, and then say, I'm ready to move the hell on and go save myself. And so from that, I do feel confident. I do feel strong. Do I have moments of weakness? Do I cry because I'm upset? Because this was not the agreement to obviously, be a single mom or whatever else. Yeah, but at the end of the day, I know what real love feels like. I know what somebody who does take accountability for their actions, what that looks like. I know what it feels like to be in love and to be mad, crazy, just vibing with somebody. And those are the things that you hold on to because they are real. Don't ever let somebody steal your joy, your love, your happiness, your kindness, your compassion. Yes, you might be a little guarded and you might have your walls up, but those are things that are healthy, and you can righteously be guarded. And righteously, I like using righteous because you're allowed to be in your power, and you don't have to worry about being so jaded that you're not taking yourself seriously, or that you feel that you can't trust yourself and your choices or your decisions. Everything happens for a reason, and we all run into bad eggs. And so that is what I wanted to talk to you guys. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this episode talking about narcissism, being able to identify with narcissism, and being able to realize that even though you may have been a victim, you might have been a highly sensitive person, or you might be, or you might be empathic. And you might be someone who's very spiritual, or not even realizing that, oh my gosh, I've been the kind, loving, compassionate, very nurturing type of person. And then I wonder why I get screwed. Well, the thing is that it happens, but when you find your soul family, you guys, the great news is they appreciate you and they match you and meet you exactly where you're at. And that makes life worth living. And that makes also the real fact and opportunity of being able to meet others who Like it exists. It's out there, right? And that you have real friendships and real people who show up for you because you're doing the same. You do the same thing for them, right? And that's essentially what we want. We want real loyalty. We want unconditional love, not just love. We want unconditional love, And so be sure to be able to give that to yourself. And if you don't know how to self-love, then I highly recommend that you book a call with me. Let's get a free strategy session on the books. And let's talk about the spiritual counseling. Let's talk about where you could be 3 months, 6 months, 12 months from now, and get you to a place where you can be confident like myself. You can be strong, and you can start to really identify some of your areas and start getting you to the place where you can heal. So that way, when and if you come into a situation that you can say, nope, I'm not going there, you have all the tools and everything that is necessary to carry and to move you forward. So thanks for joining me, and I will see you guys on the next episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Manifest That Shit podcast with me, your host, Latoya Beverly. I am your spiritual guide and business coach. If you want to hear more about my services and how you can work with me one-to-one, feel free to reach out to me at manifestyourlegacy.com. or follow me on IG at Manifest Your Legacy or Facebook at Manifest Your Legacy today. I so look forward to connecting with each and every single one of you and touching your soul and heart. And you know how I like it, honey. Real, raw, uncut, no bullshit, and no strings attached. Just all success and all love. So I look forward to seeing you on another episode.